All right. I apologize for not being able to get this to you last week, but I did want to take the time to make a video for you talking about some of the things more so associated with field sobriety and anything pertaining to the, say in this case, HGN or horizontal gaze nystagmus, or anything along those lines. So what I want to kind of break down initially is how we handle the stop. You know, even the small stuff, kind of touch base on what we should be doing before we even get the person out of the vehicle to do HGN or any of the other field sobriety testing. So first things first, hopefully you are making a traffic stop with some type of probable cause or justification for doing so. So, that can be usually driving behavior such as improper lane usage, stopping way too early or too late for uh, some type of intersection traffic control device. It could be swerving within a lane. A number of different things. One of them would be I've seen people sit at intersections, whether it be let's just say it's a regular intersection with lights, and they have a green light, and they are simply sitting there because they've passed out. Um, and so sometimes you'll see cars either sitting or hopefully they're not rolling, but occasionally it happens too. So uh, we've already pulled someone over, gone up to the car. We notice things such as the glossed over or glossy eyes. Sometimes some of them look red. You'll see, or you'll see that also, but you'll hear slurred speech. Um, Sometimes they won't be able to get their thoughts together very well. If you ask for certain things like driver's license, registrations, insurance, anything along those lines, um, they will seem confused, not be able to remember what they need to get, um, something along those lines. Okay, you'll have that. Um, the Also, don't ever say you smell alcohol. I mean, most of you probably know by now, but you smell the something that is, say I smell an alcoholic beverage, or the smell or aroma of an alcoholic beverage coming from you. Okay, um, that's something else to look at, and or at least not look at, but to pay attention to. So, moving on from there, I won't get into the whole thing as far as my personal experience of being pulled over by someone who was fishing for a DUI, but and had no justification for it. But don't be one of those officers or troopers. Um, you can get enough of those, DUIs without even looking for or trying to find them. Okay. So, all right, we're going to move ahead here. And unfortunately, because of COVID-19, can't really get a whole lot of people to help me demonstrate how to do this. This is something I wanted to have you all learn how to do, helping each other in class, going through the whole process, going through the field sobriety test itself. Obviously, most of you, well, I hope all of you would pass without any issues in terms of actually being intoxicated. But then we thought about trying to find ways to get someone who had some alcohol in their system to do some testing or something along those lines. So let's start talking about HGN in terms of what you would do. And yes, unfortunately for us, the best way I can show you with these limitations we have right now is to go through a video here. And a couple things I want to keep in mind. First, you need to make sure that you find a place that someone can take this test successfully. And by I mean by successfully is to do so safely. So be aware of people coming out of the car. When you ask them to exit the vehicle, make sure you pay attention to how they exit, see if they hold on to anything, stuff like that. But then the other thing, once you get out, pay attention to the roadway surface, what's going to be best for traffic or anything else where you need uh, to do your field sobriety test. Okay, so um, pick an area where if you had to do it, you could do it in the footwear you have. Also, if someone else has some footwear on that, like say heels or anything like that, there are cases and places where should have them take those off so that it's a fair assessment. Okay. So positioning of it. Here we go. As you can see in this picture here in this video, what I recommend, have the individual, tell them, okay, I need for you to stand with your feet together, hands to your side, and I need for you to follow. And then as far as what to follow, it depends on whether it be day or night, what you feel comfortable using. During the day, you can use something as simple as a pen. And most officers will have that on them anytime. Okay, so you have that. Nighttime, some will use a pin light. Some of them will, I've seen others use other types of, something with a light on the end of it. Anything that they can actually see and follow, essentially. Okay. Also want to make sure you set up the lighting to where you can actually see their eyes and see how they're behaving and things along those lines. So also, you are going to be from, you can see here, reach very close. I would say, depending on the person, depending on the situation, you can be anywhere from, say, I wouldn't say 3 feet, but say from 24 to 30 inches away with what they're actually looking at. But either way, it's going to be slightly above their eye line so that they have to look up at it. They can see it better, and you can see their eyes better as they are doing the testing. Okay, so we're good there. Also remind them, do not move your head. Keep your head still. Follow the pin with your eyes only. Okay, that's really simple. If they fail to do that, you can mark that down as indications of possible intoxication. Okay, so we're going to move ahead and talk about the first thing you're going to look at or look for. It's called equal pupil size and resting nystagmus. Okay, so basically all you're doing is looking at to see if both eyes are, both pupils are the same size, because due to there are some substances that will actually affect that part of it, of your brain, and therefore causes one pupil to be different than the other. But needs to say, this is really simple. Just hold the pen still up above their, not really high, but slightly above their eye level, and just simply hold it there for about 5 seconds, and that's all you have to do. And if they are good there, the next thing is equal tracking, or we call it smooth tracking. Okay. I combine some of these, but either way, what you should do if you're going to do equal tracking, pay attention to that first. All you're trying to see is if both eyes actually follow the pen or the object that you're using. So I'm going to go ahead and play this video through a little bit, give you an example of what it looks like. So they're going to start going to the left side first on all of them. You want to be consistent. Now notice this is not fast, but it is a consistent, smooth movement. Don't go too slow. Just because if you go slow, your eye's going to naturally have kind of a bounce to it as it goes. It's harder to keep eyes moving smooth if you're going too slow. But just keep a nice rhythm. Basically, it's about, if you start in the middle, it's about a 2 to 3 count to get to the outside of it. You're the farthest point, and then bringing it back, go to the opposite side, go both ways 2 times, bring it back to the middle, and then now you're checking for a lack of smooth pursuit. This is something that you will be looking for on this particular test, is going to be any bouncing, jumping, whatever word you'd like to use, of the eyes. This particular subject, she is not intoxicated, or if it is, very, very low levels, you don't see any, but this is what smooth pursuit should look like. And once again, you're going to see the pace that you move it out and move it back to the middle. That came at the same pace, out to the side, middle, and she's going to do it one more time here. So there's one, equal pass. Notice there's no jumping or bumping of the eye. It doesn't pause, for example. That's something else you'll see, is it'll pause if someone's intoxicated. It'll follow the pen or the stimulus, and then it will kind of pause, and almost like it freezes, and then it kind of jumps to catch back up. That's another sign of basically a lack of smooth pursuit. Okay, so next thing, this is distinct and sustained nystagmus maximum deviation. So basically what you do is you are going to take your stimuli, your pen, whatever you're using, and you're going to move it out to about 45 degree, 45. You're going to take it out. You'll see the eyes to where they get as far over as they can. And you're always, if you're moving it to that subject's left, you're always going to be looking at that eye. So the first thing they do is move it to the left for the particular person's being tested. So they move it out to the left side, take it out that extreme, and they're going to hold it there. And I recommend about a 5-second count, because that gives you long enough to be able to tell whether that is truly, nystagmus, or in essence bouncing, that if any of it's occurring. And some people have a slight bounce at maximum deviation if you hold it there long enough, and that's okay. Like I said, that's natural to have like a little jump at maximum deviation, but not a lot, or not before maximum deviation. Okay, so once again, they're going to hold it for about 5 seconds and then bring it back to the other side, hold for about 5 seconds, and then they'll bring it back. Once again, you're doing it 2 times each way so you can test both eyes. I don't think we need to watch this whole thing. It's going to come back to the middle here pretty soon. And then the next thing is, so we've already tested to see if we can make it all the way out to the 40, or all the way out to maximum deviation. And if you notice something, you still want to test this next one prior to 45, but a good sign that says, hey, I need to test this beyond that, is if you start to see nystagmus before it even gets to the maximum deviation. Then you can kind of go on to this onset of nystagmus prior to 45 degrees. And what you'll find out is the higher the level of intoxication is, the quicker the onset of nystagmus, or this bouncing that you'll see. And once again, I'll show you a video, not in this one, but there will be a next one. We'll go through and I'll show you what it looks like to see some of these signs of intoxication, like prior to nystagmus, prior to 45. So same thing. You're going to take this out here, hold for about 5 seconds at that 45 degree angle here, hold, and then you're going to bring it back to the other side. I miscounted in my head. There we go. Comes across here. You're going to do a little bit slower so you can see exactly where that nystagmus or bumping or jumping of the eye actually occurs. If you do too fast, it'll be harder to see. So that's why they slow it down. This pace for this particular test is slower than the others, because you are trying to see exactly where it actually sets in, where you start seeing the bouncing, if it's any time before 45 degrees. Okay. And the last thing they wanted to show you is this vertical gaze nystagmus, which is typically used more so for if you suspect a controlled substance and not alcohol. So, I mean, I have seen and have heard, read reports of if someone is like heavily intoxicated, that they may have a vertical gaze nystagmus issue, but most DREs basically say that it's more so for your controlled substances that will cause vertical gaze nystagmus. So that's all it is simply starting where you had done before. You can turn your pen, as you can see here, the stimuli they're using is a little bit different, but nonetheless, they've turned it, instead of being vertical, it's horizontal. So you just change it how you're holding it in your hand, hold it in the same place, but the only difference is, instead of moving it horizontally from side to side, you simply move it up. Don't go like way up. You're going to move it up just about, I'd say actual distance you have to move it. It may vary from person to person, but you may only have to move it about a foot or 12 inches, in essence. Okay. Anything that makes them get up here to vertical, the top of their vertical, without having to like blink and try really hard to keep their eyes up there. Once they get their eyes up, kind of hold it there for a few seconds. But yeah, you'll see that same nystagmus or bumping if they is usually indicates some type of controlled substance. So that's essentially all HGN, or horizontal gaze nystagmus, and vertical nystagmus pertains to. So that's essentially all I need to cover for this particular section. I will talk to you a little bit more about the different testing we do in terms of field sobriety, and how how it's done. So until then,